Hello again, thanks for making a date. This is the Marketplace. Now, Gold Fields West Africa has renewed its commitment to increasing local content to the benefit of local enterprises and the wider economy. This is after the gold mining firm paid a dividend of $16 million to government through the Ministry of Mines and Natural Resources. In recent times, government has cautioned all mining firms who default in dividend payments, citing non-profitability as one of the reasons. Executive Vice President and Head of Gold Fields West Africa, Alfred Baku, spoke with Joy Business.
The development agreement we have with the government to ensure that there is always money coming through to the government, we have what we call the advance guaranteed payment. That is, in the course of the year, before we declare the dividend, we pay 5% of our profit after tax, and that is the first check, which is the 1 million for Daman, and then the second check, which is the 5.8 million, is the advance guaranteed payment for Tarkwa, which is the 5.8 million, and then the last but not least check of 9.2 million is the real dividend when we're ready, which we declared.
Walk us through. I mean, whenever we're talking of mining corporations, oftentimes we do hear of stories, troubling stories of, most of these companies leaving the host communities to their own fate. We are just hearing that it's a different situation with Gold Fields.
That's correct. We have what we call the Gold Fields Foundation. And how the foundation works is this. There is a formula. Every ounce of gold that we produce, we set aside $1. And then over and above that, we have 1.5% of our profit before tax or into the foundation. And then this money, we meet with the community leaders, and we don't dictate it. We don't control it. We discuss with them. So projects that are dear to their hearts, we actually, based on how much is in the coffers, we use that. We believe that it's important that we have good working relationship with our host community, so we don't have to leave them behind us. And so far, it's been a successful story, and we'll continue to do that.
Meanwhile, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Kwekwa Somachreme, has again warned mining corporations against non-payment of dividends, saying sanctions will soon be meted out if they fail to do so by the end of the year.
Come to think of it, so many mine companies in the country have defaulted in dividend payment. Some have stayed off, and for almost 10 years they had not paid. We've written to all such companies, and we are urging them to pay up. Other than that, the whip is, and we deal with them as per our laws, particularly Act 703. You cannot do your business, and the little that has to come to the government, you sit on. Some are talking of, we didn't declare any dividend. We made no profit. Therefore, no dividend could be declared. Then why are you in business for all these years if you are not making profits? Why are you in business? So we find it very difficult to believe such a story. But for you, Gold Fields, we can chest out, looking at the development that you have brought into being. And aptly, you have paid your dividend. This is going to assist the government to prosecute the numerous flagship policies that we have brought into being. The checks will not stay here. We will duly present same to Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, and his outfit for them to use it judiciously to help the country to grow, so that the dream that we have, the manifesto that we presented to Ghanaians, will indeed come to fruition.
Away from mining now, foreign investor Caitlin is set to take over Aluworks Limited. To this effect, the board has begun the process towards the issuing of new shares to the investor. According to management of the company, this development presents a bright future for the company, considering Caitlin's track record in the aluminum industry. Addressing the media on the sidelines of the company's annual general meeting, Here in Accra, Managing Director of Aluworks, Ernest Okun, says the move should also see the company list on the Ghana Stock Exchange.
We've had several discussions with Ghana Stock Exchange. They are very well aware of what we've told you today at the annual general meeting, and they are very confident that as soon as the investor comes in, everything is hunky-dory. So we are not worried about it at all, because we know that we are getting out of the ruts very soon. Next year, by this time, or by the end of the year, the face of the company will have changed. There'll be these new people in place. As we told you, the people we're talking to are in the aluminum industry worldwide. They are well ahead of where we are. And they've told us that they're going to change the face of the company. We're going to be doing things different. One of the questions that was asked was, when they come in, what will happen to the kind of business we're doing? We're going to be doing things very differently. So it's going to be a very different Aluworks from now on. What has happened is that because of the circumstances we've been running at a very slow pace, and therefore, as we've told you at the annual general meeting, the number of staff, for example, has not been up to the level that it should be, just commensurate with where we are. Of course, if the throughput increases to a high level, then we'll need to have more hands. We'll need to change our organization structure to be able to do more. We're also going to have a different range of products, which will need different expertise and different strategies to make them come out. So it's going to be different.
It's live on the marketplace. Let's now turn attention to some budget stories now. And the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, has welcomed a review of the personal income tax band from 10,000 cedis monthly salary level to 20,000 cedis at a new tax rate of 30%. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, CEO of the AGI, said Chuma Kwabwa, says the move does not only send right signals to the investors, but also reduce the general cost of living within the business community.
So many of them established. But AGI's position has always been that, knowing that we are the operators and we know how industries are set up, that it's not just a political gimmick. I mean, your political dogma can never replace economic reality. So when it comes to establishment of industry, you can't just wish it. It has to go through some processes. So the numbers for me was not very critical, but the efforts, and the strategies that is being put in place to ensure that we have a certain number.
Initially, you described the 10,000 benchmark and the 35 as an ad hoc means of, generating much more revenue for the country. But with it being pegged at this level, do you think that really, as the finance minister stated, they're hearing the plight of the concerned?
I think so. I think the change, the adjustments in the ban is definitely a response to the concerns you raised. Because for businesses, you have a lot of people within that band, and for us as business, when you increase the band like that, you may think that you are taxing the individual, but it's a cost to you, the business operator, because what it means is that the disposable income of the person is going to go down and is going to demand more. So the change in the tariff band for me is positive. The fact that it's been increased from 10 to 20,000, and the fact that even the rates, applicable rate, has also been reduced, even at that level from 35 to 30. It means that you're going to improve the disposable income of the people. So that for me is positive. There are, however, other aspects of the midterm budget review which we haven't seen that has been touched on in this budget. A typical example is the 5% street levy. We had made a very strong position on this, that it should be reviewed in the 2019 budget. So far, we haven't heard anything about it, and we need to do further investigation, further discussions with the minister, because we thought that that particular policy was not helping manufacturing.
But since it's not been done, and since we had to engage them, it simply means that it still holds. How does it affect you going forward?
It's not the best of policy for manufacturing, and I'm sure when we meet the minister, he probably would come up with other areas that is going to ameliorate the challenges of manufacturing. If it's convincing enough, we'll look at it. But so far, for that particular straight levy, 5% straight levy, not being mentioned in the budget, I'm not very satisfied. I thought that it's so important, it's so crucial for manufacturing, especially so because government itself has an agenda. One of the critical agenda is to promote industrialization. And for us, if you bring policies or taxes that rather becomes counterproductive, then you are not going to help achieve the very objective that you've set for yourself.
Meanwhile, the association has also criticized some aspects of the 2018 budget statement. The AGI says even though it meets expectations of Ghanaian industries, much was not heard about the one district, one factory policy and processes involved to set up the industries. Once again, says Chuma Kwabwa.
Interest rate, unfortunately, is still up there, but even if you compare year on year, you saw some reduction in interest rates. Of course, not up to the level that we expect, but there was some stability. Until recently, also, there was, reasonable stability in the exchange rate until the last 2 months or so when we started seeing fast depreciation of the cedi. But I think for the past few weeks also, it stabilized again. So I think the minister will be right to say that there has been general stability in the macroeconomic environment. I think there's some improvement.
Do you know, per what the finance minister just stated, that about 75 industries are expected to be completed somewhere by next year? Is AGI confident? Because you have always been raising concerns about a clear guideline as to how these factories are going to be funded and completed.
Well, I think the expectation was even higher, that at the initial stages we will have so many of them established. But AGI's position has always been that knowing that we are the operators and we know how industries are set up, that it's not just a political gimmick. Your political dogma can never replace economic reality. So when it comes to establishment of industry, you can't just wish it. It has to go through some processes. So the numbers for me was not very critical, but the efforts, and the strategies that is being put in place to ensure that we have a certain number is more important. So the government is saying about 70 industries are supposed to be set up. We will need to follow up to see the stage where they are, to be very sure that indeed by the end of the year, by the end of next year, we have those numbers.
Recapping the budget now, the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, has assured the much-touted home-based national carrier will start next year. He also announced the focus next year will be on regional and intercontinental flights, as well as commencement of Phase 2 of the Tamale Airport, which will begin in 2019. The home-based carrier is expected to ply regional routes which have not been explored. The Finance Minister highlighted these in the presentation of the budget yesterday.
The ministry commenced work on the Kumasi Airport Phase 2 project to upgrade it to a real international airport. The works include extension of the runway from the current 1,981 meters to 2,300 meters, construction of new terminal building to handle 1 million passengers per year, and other ancillary works. The project is expected to be 30% complete by the end of 2018. Implementation will continue in 2019. Mr. Speaker, work on Tamale Airport Phase 2 received regulatory approvals for the construction of a new terminal building and will serve the Sahelian region. In 2019, the contract agreement will be finalized and construction works commence. The project is expected to be 65% complete by the end of 2019. Finally, Mr. Speaker, government has given approval for the establishment of a home-based airline with private sector participation to provide regional and intercontinental services for efficient movement of people, goods, services, as well as to promote tourism. Strategic investors will be engaged, and the airline is expected to commence operations in 2019.
Let's move on to another area, very, very important. The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, says government has programmed to earn $1.1 billion as petroleum revenues for next year. The Finance Minister told Parliament during the presentation of the budget and financial policy. He says government has also decided to postpone the extraction of its share of the gas resource until such a time that they line up off-takers to consume the gas. These, he noted, are prudential measures and should not be misconstrued to mean that the ministry will not be pursuing the VRA's gas bills as required by the Petroleum Revenue Management Act.
government has decided to postpone the extraction of its share of the gas resources, royalties, and carried and participating interest until such a time that we line up off-takers to consume the gas in here. These are prudential measures and should not be misconstrued to mean that the ministry will not be pursuing the VRS gas bills as required by the PRMA. Mr. Speaker, if this House grants us this request, the projected petroleum revenue for 2019 will amount to $1.1 billion US. This is made up of royalties of $227.1 million, carried and participating interest of $602.8 million, carried income tax $249.6 million, and surface rentals of $1.1 million. Of this amount, $404.9 million will be ceded to the NOC for its equity financing costs, $320.1 million, and share of the net carried and participating interest, $84.8 million. $473 million allocated to the ABFA, while the GPFs receive $202.7 million. The GPF's receipts will be distributed between the Ghana Civilization Fund and the Ghana Heritage Fund.
Let's go on Skype now and get some explanation from these figures from energy expert Ishmael Ejekumhene. Ishmael, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace.
Good afternoon, Emmanuel.
All right, so you've been listening to the finance minister, and most importantly, he has set a new benchmark rate for crude oil pricing. It's now $66.76 per barrel. What's your, take on these developments?
Well, we spoke earlier on before spread. We were projecting that it would be in the 60s. Looking at the movements in the globe trends, we expected it to be around. One interesting thing, it's not just the 70-year moving average that was used, but they've also taken into cognizance projections made months and things and some of the agencies that are forecasting. So it looks reasonable, and hopefully we'll be able to.
All right, now let's take a look at the components of this year's or next year's projections for petroleum revenue, and he is projecting $227 million as in royalties, and also carried and participating interest taking $602.8 million, corporate income tax $249.6 million, and surface rentals $1.1 million US. Now, compared to 2018, do you think these are real figures that have been translated into economic development?
Well, they are all figures are all a function of the price and production. So if the benchmark price, we achieve the benchmark production, which is estimated to be in the region of 1,000 a day, then the royalty, the carried and participation of whatever product if we meet. What is interesting is that we expect so much from corporate income tax, which is one particular revenue source doing too well because the fact that these entities are allowed to fund their investment with it. So it's a meta component that anytime we to collect or anytime it's has to collect, it shoots our petroleum receipts. So of all the others, we have to achieve the target. It's only the corporate income tax that's not a function of tax. But others, if as we hit achieve those targets, they are royalty is 5%. The carried but basic interest, they're all predetermined. Once you get the projections right, you slap them on it, you get the figure. What is tricky, corporate tax, which a lot will have to go in, and we're going to get significant information this will be the first time we will be net more than $1 billion to achieve that target. The highest we have achieved so far was 2014, was something like $970 billion. So able to achieve, then we will hit the $1 billion for the first time.
All right. Now, so you think we can achieve this 1.1 billion, especially when we have new Sankofa, Ginyame, and other fields coming on board? Are we really ready to come by this figure?
Exactly, but that again going back to if we're going to be able to do 71,000 barrels a day, which depends on what comes out of Jubilee, comes out of SG, and put together. If we're not going to have times on the tariff bill, if we're going to allow it to move as planned, hit that target, and if we get that price as we projected, it means it's achievable. You and about is it has its and things can very easily change. I think they are reasonable projections based on that we have 3 fields running at the same time. Looking at the current we may be able to achieve those.
All right, many thanks for your time, Ishmael Jokumi, energy expert, joining us via Skype to comment on the new figures under the petroleum revenue generation in the 2019 budget. And on that note, we draw the curtains down on this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. Many thanks for your company throughout the week. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Riafi. Let's meet next Monday for more interesting developments in the world of business. Have a good afternoon.